Hey there guys, this is Reckles with WTBGold, and today we're going to talk about how to play Lunara in Heroes of the Storm. Now, Lunara isn't a master of 1v1 combat by any means. She's someone though who can walk up to an enemy team and leave them wondering why they're at half health before the team fight's even started yet. Her prancing is ridiculous and her giggle will haunt the enemy's dreams as you chase them down. Also, she does such a good job as an assassin, a split pusher, and a vision giver that, as far as I can tell, she makes Zagaras obsolete. Unlike a lot of heroes out there, there seem to be 3 viable builds for her depending on your team comp, so rather than go through each individually, I think it'll be faster and more clear if we flesh them out as we discuss her talents and abilities. Oh, and I'm going to be quoting some damage numbers, so everything is going to be scaled to level 20. Let's get going on the guide and talk about her 3 builds. Alright, we need to lay down some quick groundwork in order to really understand her, so we're going to go through her basic kit before we go on. Lunara's trait is Nature's Toxin. Now, this is a stacking poison that's applied by all of her auto attacks and abilities. It ticks for 70 damage a second for 3 seconds, and each attack adds another 3 seconds. So you aren't going to be hitting 140 or 210 damage per second. 3 stacks, though, accumulate a total of 630 additional poison damage on her enemies. Second, she doesn't have a mount, and instead hilariously gallops along at 120% move speed. Now, this is fast enough to not get caught by chasing enemies if you leave a dangerous engagement in time, but it's by no means a super boost that'll get you out of any and every bad spot. So be careful. It's best seen in action, I guess, when you're chasing down like an enemy Lily who's caught out and already at low health. Her Q is a tiny little skill shot that does 350 damage and applies a poison stack to anything in an area a little smaller than Tyranda's stun. Her W adds a stack to all poisoned enemies and slows them by 40 seconds. So this is great for getting that extra auto attack or 2 in on the aforementioned fleeing Lily. Her E, the Wisp, is a movable scouting drone that you can keep relocating as long as it's alive. Not much to talk about there. Okay, so let's get into her talents and start building this thing. 2 of her initial talents deal with mana, but unlike heroes like Tassadar, it's pretty difficult to yourself. Like, if you Q and W on cooldown, never pick up a regen globe, and never drink from the fountain, it'll still be about 2 minutes before you're completely out of mana. So, photosynthesis, where you return mana from your W, is pretty worthless if you're using your abilities efficiently. Natural perspective is interesting. It causes your poison to reveal enemies for the duration of your poison. This one's dangerous though. Often people take it when they're up against a Nova or a Zeratul, and while yeah, it's a benefit to the team, you can suffer from that murky without an egg, or oh my god, I see Abathur syndrome. While Zeratul is visible, you're inclined to go after him and get out of position, and yeah, you can see him, but you might not see the rest of the enemy team waiting to gank you. So in short, if you can hit Zeratul in the first place, he's either going to be low enough for you to keep chasing him or not, regardless of whether he's visible for the next 3 to 6 seconds. I recommend for all 3 builds taking Blossom Swell. This talent not only helps you hit 5 minions in a wave versus the normal 2, but with practice and timing, you can hit 3 enemies in a team fight. That's 2,400 damage. 350 ability damage plus 420 poison damage to 3 people when you just run in, use your Q, and then use your W as you back out. Alright, her next talent tier is the most underwhelming in all of Heroes of the Storm. But if you've played Zagaras, you know that the best way to use your creep is to, number 1, spot for ganks, and number 2, see where the enemy is if they're going to take an objective or a merc camp. With Dividing Wisp, as long as you always have the minimap in the corner of your eye, you can do this. Put 1 Wisp in a location where you might die if someone comes to gank you, in a bush somewhere, and put another, say, at the enemy bruisers on Dragonshire, or at each of the turn-in spots on Tomb of the Spider Queen. So I recommend that for all 3 builds. If you're new to the game or just aren't very good at watching the minimap, that's fine. Take Skybound Wisp so you get a free clairvoyance whenever someone kills it. This is also the talent that I'd recommend if you're up against a stealthy like Zeratul, since clairvoyance prevents them from re-stealthing. Alright, level 7 is where the builds start to differentiate. Ooh, that sounds nice talent is Siphoning Toxin. And the phrasing is a little confusing, and even my awesome sauce friend Defebvoir misinterpreted it. So, to be clear, it gives you the amount of healing Regen Master gives whenever your poison is on something. It doesn't give you double healing if you have two things poisoned. And as anyone who's played another DPS like Tychus, Gazlo, Illidan, or Sergeant Hammer who has Regen Master can tell you, the amount of healing on Regen Master is good to make sure you always go into a team fight with full HP, but it really doesn't do anything if you're getting focused. Like, you're gonna die whether you have it or not. So you're better off taking damage increasing abilities. The best damage boost on this tier comes from Splintered Spear, which gives you 3 auto attacks immediately after your Q, and this is my recommendation for the slow burn build. It works perfectly with a teamfight playstyle. We talked before about how her basic combo is to run in, Q, and then W as she leaves. Well, now you run in, Q, immediately auto attack once, and then W as you disengage. This leaves 3 people with over 500 direct damage taken and over 600 poison damage each. In 1 second, you just dealt almost 4,000 hero damage to the enemy team. Before a team fight even starts, 1 poke leaves them sitting at half HP, wondering what the hell just happened. Alright, Wild Vigor, the next talent, increases the damage of your next 4 auto attacks by 50%. So you'll be auto attacking for 300 damage rather than 200. Now, this is great in 1v1 or 2v2 fights, or for when you're chasing down that half health Lily. But you're so squishy that if you try to take advantage of it in team fights to get that extra 400 damage in, it usually means you die as well. Nature's Culling, the last talent here, is great for a lane bully build. It makes her Q and W combo suddenly clear out an entire minion wave, so you can either focus damage on the enemies you're laning against, or swap to another lane to help out and grab a DK. It's a talent that can actually let you get Merc Camp, something she is notoriously bad at. 1 cast of her Vine ultimate suddenly deals 12,000 siege damage to a minion wave. And since you can poison structures, this lets you just annihilate forts and towers before the enemy team even knows what's happening. And I just wanted to point out that the most successful heroes in the game generally have been those that can easily deal with minions while still dealing a respectable amount of hero damage. The top Kael'thas, Vala, Zeratul, Illidan, and Sylvanas builds all fill this niche and have been consistent top picks for both competitive and casual play. It's like how Rexxar has just a ton of versatility in his talents, but the only real viable build is one where he can blow up minions and merc camps, essentially turning him from a tank to a specialist. Alright, for her ultimate abilities, Thornwood Vine seems to be the best, although Leap is a million times more fun and can get you out of some really tight spots. Even if the enemy team is spread with Thornwood Vine, you can still hit 2 or 3 of them if they come at you in a line, and with a quick W, that's a free 1,400 hero damage spread out among 3 people. Also, since it can clear an entire minion wave, it's the obvious pick for the lane bully build. Leaping Strike can do a huge amount of damage to 1 hero, but isn't really what you want to use if you're team fighting a lot, since more often than not, you accidentally leap into their enemy team or away from your healer while going for a kill. You can use this to leap out of Leoric's Entomb and even the Butcher's Chain Post. I think the latter is a bug though. At level 13, we've got some great talents that really start to identify the builds. The wonderfully named Unfair Advantage gives 50% more poison damage to anyone who's slowed. This is a great gimmick and will probably be the first build we see in competitive play before we settle into the teamfight build that is just better. For example, I was matched up against the guys from Team Blaze in a quick match, so thanks Blizzard, and they were testing this out. So the way this works, if you dot 1 person and W, they're slowed for 3 seconds and take 105 damage per second in that time frame rather than the initial 70. So it's great for singling out 1 person and burning them down, but it doesn't do that damage for the entirety of the poison life. When this becomes super powerful is when you combine it with other heroes who regularly slow. Jaina and Arthas are the obvious picks, but also Leoric with his Skeleton Swing, Butcher with his Hamstring, a Slime build Murky, multi-shot Vala, or Tychus with his slow whenever he overkills. Alright, next, Pestering Blossom is probably the best talent in her entire kit. With this, you can hit the entire enemy team with your Q from almost Sergeant Hammer range. It's better to stay alive and deal consistent damage than go in, do a bunch of quick bursts, and then immediately die because you get focused down. Mentioning dying though, Advanced Spell Shield is fantastic and actually in line with the Dryad lore, since they are immune to magic in World of Warcraft. It's also a great talent if you're bouncing between lanes or chasing down people. Take this if you're losing and can't handle the damage output of the enemy heroes. And last, we've got Giant Killer, which is great, but you're not really an auto attack hero. Like, Lunara can do an absurd amount of damage if she focuses on multi-dotting the entire enemy team and just staying alive. Alright. All of the level 16 talents are good. I talked with Grubby about this, and even he wasn't sure what to take, but we're both leaning towards the same talents. First of all, let's get Choking Pollen out of the way. It's a damage boost to your Q whenever you hit someone who's already poisoned. The first option is to Q someone, and then Q them again after maintaining your poison on them for 8 or 10 seconds. If you stay in a respectable team fight for 8 seconds, you're dead. Alternatively, to get the 150 damage out of this talent, you can poison someone with an auto attack and then hit that same person with your Q. I mean, that's fine, but if you chase like that, you run the risk of either missing or running into their enemy team. This talent is dangerous to your health. Starwood Spear, however, is fantastic. Now you can not only Q from a mile away with Pestering Blossom, but you can follow it up with your Splintered Spear from a mile away too, achieving your full 4,000 damage combo without ever even getting close enough for, like, Rainer to touch you. Invigorating Spores, which gives you 50% increased attack speed for 6 seconds, and Crippling Slow, which slows for 60% rather than 40%, accomplish approximately the same thing. Like, the Fleeing Lily can't escape before you kill her. For general team fighting, I recommend the Slow, so you can help out your entire team with the utility that a really strong Slow brings for disengages or chases, rather than just boosting your own damage a little bit. If you try to stay in a fight and spread out your auto attacks during that 6 seconds, which is the best way to use Invigorating Spores, you run the risk of being singled out by your opponents. Okay, the level 20 upgrades are slightly underwhelming on the surface, but they're all absolutely amazing when you look closer. The biggest benefit to Forest's Wrath, the Vine upgrade, is arguably the insane Vision upgrade. You essentially have a permanent Tassadar Oracle around you, and since this is a damaging ability, you can throw it over walls or into bushes to scout out what's on the other side without getting remotely close. You can also poke with it and then W for an extra stack of poison damage from like halfway across the map. Boundless Stride gives you both charges of your leap whenever it comes off cooldown and lets you leap to allies. This finally gives Lunara the escape that she so desperately needs that doesn't require you to jump into the middle of the enemy team. Still, our build here that uses Leap is focused on singling out and chasing down one enemy, so the next talent may be better. Galloping Gate makes you glow with the power of the forest and run at almost 2 times speed. So similar to Cho'Gall or the Lost Vikings. It's faster than mounted speed. And since you can then slow after you've caught up with them and burst them down, it's a fantastic talent. And then Abolish Magic is probably great, but honestly I just suck with Cleanse. It's a targeted cleanse. The biggest difference between this and Cleanse is it works on 2 people and it also removes dot, so it might remove Chain Bomb. I need to test that some more, so let me know in the comments if it does. So, that's my overview. Essentially, she does everything that Zagara can do, either equally well or better, and has put old Zigzag out of a job. Now, I suspect that we'll see teams playing around with the gimmick build in the first couple tournament appearances before everyone comes around and sees that the consistent team-wide poison and poke is just undeniably better for every situation. Winning or losing in the mid game, early game, late game. However, since I'm so used to being a lane bully on Murky, I'll probably just be sitting in the corner with my wonky little push build. Thanks so much for watching. If y'all have any questions or suggestions on how to play Lunara, leave them in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed or checked out any of my other guides, do that now. Have a good day, guys. Talk to you later.